is live. Yep, that's counting down or counting up. All right, cool. So the channel's still here. Apologies, been offline. I'll still be offline for a bit. I posted up a post, probably more so for members only, maybe a week ago now, just in regards to saying, hey, I've got to get some stuff done, so I'll be offline. Don't know when I'll be back on. If people want to unsubscribe or stop paying the monthly membership that some people have chosen to do, then feel free. And yeah, but the channel's not going anywhere. Channel's still here. It'll still be here. I've just got some work and stuff that I'm working on, which I need to get done. And yeah, not sure how long that's going to take. So some of the challenges of working with developers for the project that my wife and I have been working on, that's hit a major obstacle right now. Just I think in terms of what was agreed, what had been discussed and written up in the scope of work and the contract and that sort of stuff. So anyway, instead of yapping on about that, that's that. So just working through that stuff and a few other things. A couple of things before I answer a couple of questions that have come through. Just want to acknowledge and shout out Hugh Keir, the HR podcast host. He hasn't reached out to me personally, but one of his loyal patrons that follows, supports Hugh Keir and the work that he does on the HR podcast. So if you don't know who Hugh is, check out or do a search on HR on the HR podcast and yeah, see the guests and stuff and how he goes about doing things. Seems like a really genuine, down to earth guy, a former veteran, or not former veteran, a veteran, former soldier from over in the UK military. Massive amount of experience. Awesome guy from what I can tell. Again, I've never spoken to or met with him, but seems like a genuinely good dude. And anyway, one of his patrons sent myself and another person a message just letting us know that Hugh was doing I think he's doing a live Zoom call with Pasha, Pasha or Pasha. Apologies if I'm saying his name wrong. Ex SBS guy, maybe a former Gurkha. I don't know much about him. Maybe he's a former Gurkha as well. I don't know a lot about the guy other than he's got a heck of a lot of experience. And I think Pasha, apologies if I'm butchering his name or saying his name wrong. I think he's been on Mulligan Brothers podcast and he's had a few other notable people or groups or podcasts, whatever you want to call them, that have interviewed him. So he's going to be another guest that Hugh Keir has on his ever-growing podcast and that as well. So anyway, I'm not a patron or a member. So I subscribe to Hugh's HR podcast, but I'm not a paid member or patron of what Hugh does in addition to that. And he kindly allowed one of his patrons to let myself and another person join into the Zoom call. Or, yeah, basically the Patreon has asked, Hugh has given permission from what I can tell from the comms that I've received. And that's pretty cool. I'm not going to jump on and join that just because not because I don't want to, but because I haven't paid to have that privilege, to have that opportunity, or I think in YouTube membership terms they call it a perk. So I haven't paid anything to deserve the opportunity to sit in on that, so I won't join. But very grateful for that Hugh would allow that to happen, and that one of his patrons has tried. So I'll send a reply back to the person that sent the comms and copy in Hugh as well, because his email's been added into that. Yeah, and just acknowledge and thank them. I thought I'd do that here in this live. Anyway, that's that. So Hugh Keir, HR Podcast. If anybody sees this and wants to go along and support them, then feel free to do that. There's really only a couple of questions that have come through. One was from, bloody hell, Stuart. I think he did a super chat, paid some money for one of the videos, and asked about training grip strength, or how did we train grip strength for the Von Temsky exercise with the pack and the jerry cans and stuff. I'm pretty sure I've spoken about that in other videos, but I understand people probably don't want to scroll back through or find stuff for Von Temsky. Like I didn't do any specific training for Von Temsky. I didn't grab jerry cans, fill them up with water, have my pack on, web in, and go walking with them. I didn't do that. because as I've always said, I felt that that always was going to come down to just how badly I wanted to be there. And I didn't do any grip specific strength training. Like I never went to a training session or to a gym and thought I'm going to focus on grip. I never had the bucket of rice and gripping and squeezing, putting my hands into it. I never did a lot of the wrist curl stuff. I did do some of that stuff, but like they were just, it was never with the intent of I need to improve my grip strength or forearm size or whatever before Von Timsky. Like that just never entered my head. Other people may have done that. I didn't. How did the grip strength get? Like, put it this way: you're not holding the jerry cans off the ground and walking with them continuously. With never putting the jerry cans down. Like we would walk for as long as we could, and then something's got to give. And I needed to put them down, as did all of us need to put them down and give our hands a bit of a break from time to time. Sometimes we weren't allowed to do that, and sometimes we got in trouble from the instructors. And then other times we were able to walk along and then put them down and give our hands a bit of a shake, have a short rest, pick them up and go again. Plus, roughly probably every hour or maybe hour and a half or roughly thereabouts, we typically got a short break as well. So that break might have been 3 to 5 minutes. Sometimes it may have been longer. So there are opportunities and times when you will stop. And when you do get to stop, whereby you can then rest and give your hands a bit of a shake out, stretch your fingers, do whatever you need to do, get some blood flow back into them, and then you get up and go again. And so for me having that understanding for that particular part of the course, I was like, well, yeah, I never felt like, oh, and I never thought, man, I have to carry all this. I have to have my pack on, webbing, have my weapon, and carry at least one jerry can or sometimes two jerry cans for the whole 20 to 24 hours without putting them down. I never thought that. um, and that's not what happens. So you do you do get to stop, and you will have to stop to put them down to rest at different times. So hopefully that helps. Maybe it doesn't. By all means, if you want to strengthen, do grip strength stuff, man, there's plenty of gurus out there, that do grip strength stuff. Guys that do high rep pull-ups and all that sort of thing have got some pretty cool tips on grip strength, rock climbing, or climbers in general. Got some awesome tools on grip strength. Um, just basics, do farmers carries, like those things help. Just do dead hangs, do weighted hangs, do weighted pull-ups. Um, yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that you can do for grip strength. Do arm wrestling. Those that want to do arm wrestling, like those guys got phenomenal grip strength and forearm, shoulder, back connection, and all that sort of thing. So yeah, there's plenty of people out there that can help. So that's my 2 cents on that. And the last question that I've got here is from a person that's reached out um, on IG. They've said some nice words. Basically, it said, "Hope you don't mind me reaching out. Um, Joining the NZDF is something I'm seriously considering." So, person's thinking about it. Sounds like they haven't committed to it yet as I read this. Coming up early next year, so 2027. And in the long term, the NZSAS is an aspiration of mine. So cool. I don't know how old this person is. And it sounds like it's just something that they're considering at this stage. I know that path demands a great deal, both mentally and physically. So I wanted to ask whether you might have any advice for someone approaching the armed forces with that goal in mind, that specific goal of, I'm going to say the specific goal of joining the NZSAS or the SAS, wherever you are, if you're Australia, UK, whatever. They've got completely understand if you're busy, but I genuinely appreciate any guidance you'd be willing to share. So thanks for the question. I've received similar questions to these before. I let this person know. I said, "Hey, I'll just do a live today around about this time. Just letting you know you don't have to jump on, uh, but so that they can watch it in their own time." So the first part, joining the NZDF, is something I'm seriously considering. So, okay, and with the long-term goal or aspiration of joining the NZSAS or going for selection to hopefully get into the NZSAS, cool. I know that that path demands a great deal, both mentally and physically. So I wanted to ask whether you might have any advice. My advice for anybody looking to approach any defence force with the goal of looking to join one of their SF units or their SF unit, in this case the NZSAS, Um, just speaking from my own personal take on it, just go all in is my advice. If that's what you're wanting to do, the simplest approach for me, I think anyway, is not only the easiest to remember, but it's the easiest to apply. That's what I reckon. And so, if your goal is to join the army because you want to go to the SAS or the NZSAS in this case, then go all in. Like just 100% focus on that. This is what I need to start looking at what you need to do in order to not only get into the Defence Force first, like so go through that process, then identifying where in the Defence Force you want to go, um, and will that help best set you up for what's to come on selection. And once you're in the army, then try to work on those things as much as you can, as regularly as you can, to improve and the things that are going to help you give you a better chance of getting into the unit. Um, yeah, as I've always said, I think, and so things may have changed now. I don't know. I'd be surprised if they had, but I'm still always biased. Infantry is a great place to start, and um, aligns well in a lot of areas with regards to some of the requirements and or some of the demands of what that job will require should you choose to go in there. So yeah, that's my guidance and advice. Go all in. Make up your mind or your decision and then get after it. Be flexible enough. I would say that, if you need to pivot, or if you get in and you realize or decide that this isn't for you or that isn't for you, I wouldn't say just leave the New Zealand Defence Force straight away. I mean, if if your only goal for joining the New Zealand, this is the only time where I would, if your only goal for joining the New Zealand Defence Force is to go to the NZSAS, and for whatever reason that is not an option for you, I don't know whether it's medical, whether it's, I don't know, something comes up and they discover it once you're in, and it just completely blocks you from ever being able to even attempt selection, then yeah, then I personally would probably get out. But there's plenty of options in the Defence Force, regardless of where you are. So, maybe that's what I mean by pivoting, maybe adapting to that and then pivoting to something else. If that is for whatever reason um, taken out of the playbook and you can't go for it. Otherwise, if that's all you've joined for, and for whatever reason you are not allowed to do it, well then, yeah, then I personally wouldn't stick around. Like that's not why. It's not what I joined the military for. So if I can't go and do something, or I'm not allowed to, well then I'm not going to stick around and stay there. Different story that I've shared, that if I failed, like if I failed the selection and didn't pass, oh well, okay, I wasn't good enough this time. So go away, get better, reapply, go back and do it again. And the same thing might happen a second time, might happen a third time. I don't know how many chances you will get or people will get these days to go on selection, but I have heard of people having, three cracks at it. Some people have had four cracks at selection. I don't know if that's the case in NZ, but I know there's people that have had several cracks at it in Australia. And I do know of people that have had multiple attempts in New Zealand. So if there's a set number or where they cap it, like that's up to them. Um, but if you're allowed to apply, but you fail at that time just because you were underprepared, or you weren't fit enough, fast enough, strong enough, or just weren't resilient enough, or whatever, um, but it's still where you want to be, well, go away, get better, reassess, and then go back and do it again, is what I would say. So that's my take on there. So you're considering joining NZDF longer term. NZSA is the aspiration. um, Try and get, personally, again, I'm only speaking from my experience. um, I would I would say it's an advantage to um, to know clearly what it is that you want to do, and where you want to go within the military. And I share that. A couple of examples come to mind. One, if I Bill Bestick, one of the guys that I was fortunate to interview and was doing the Epic Aotearoa podcast, I think he spoke about he was 7 or 10, I think, when he knew that he wanted to join. the SAS. I was blown away when I heard that. I was like, holy heck. I thought I was young when I knew what I wanted to do, which was join the SAS at 14. So when I heard Bill talk about, I think it was 7 or 10, whatever it was. Maybe it was 9. 7, 9, or 10, hedge my bet sayers. One of those was much younger than me. And there've been plenty of other people that from a young age and many younger than the age where I was when I felt like I knew what I wanted to do. Like people listen to that and go, "You're only 14. How could you know what you want to do with your life in terms of career?" Well, I don't know. For me, I did. I felt like I knew, and so that's what I did. I went after it. Um, went all in terms of just little things, trying to prepare myself as well as I could, learning from experienced soldiers, choosing infantry because I felt that that would give me the best chance, and then yeah, looking to apply all those things. I also went on to selection knowing that I could fail, and so if I did fail, it wasn't the end of the world for me, if that makes sense. It wasn't like, oh, I can't do this, I could never do this. For me, it was just a case of in my head, if I had have failed, it was just a case of I'm not good enough right now. Go away, sort myself out. Be honest with whatever those things are that I failed on. So I knew a big one was on the New Zealand one, that if I failed because I was too slow on the navigation, is probably going to be because my navigation wasn't very good. Even though, as I've mentioned, I had real bare bones basics. Like I could plot a bearing, shoot a bearing, I knew my paces to distance, and I could go. Um, but if I failed the navigation due to being too slow on time, well, then that would have been a major reference point for me to go, yep, I suck at navigation, or I sucked at navigation and I need to go away and get better. And I would have hounded um, my two ICs and section commanders, many of whom were, from support company. Number of them were from recce platoon, recon platoon, in support company, and we're now two ICs or section commanders in the rifle company that I was in. So I know I would have been picking their brains and getting a heck of a lot of help, or a lot more help. So just little things like that, in terms of preparing yourself and knowing where it is that you want to go, why you want to go there, and if it is actually what you want to do. Some people realize that at a younger age. And then again, at the other end, some people don't. Like Chris Kumaro, another gentleman that I had the privilege to interview. I think he mentioned it wasn't until he was in the army, he didn't even know anything about the SAS. He just seen the guys in the navy blue coloured overalls, and some of them with long hair and beards. And then he asked his mate, and then his mate told him, and then that's what triggered him to want to go and join the unit. So yeah, lots of, I suppose, different pathways. If this is something for you, though, in particular with your question, and it's something that you are seriously considering that you've got here, and that your long term aspiration is to go there, um, I think it's helpful anyway to get really clear on it sooner rather than later, and then just fully committed and go. So, yeah, that's my take. Um, in regards to your question. So hopefully that helps. I don't know if you're here on this live at this time, but anyway, I'll let you know in the message in my reply that I do a live. It's just easier for me to talk to it or babble on rather than try to type all of that out. And hopefully it lands. Hopefully, you can take something away from it that helps. And yeah, genuinely wishing you all the best with regards to your your decision and plans to go and join not only the NZDF but potentially down the line, whenever that is, the NZSAS. So good for you. What's this? Oh, sorry, there's some questions on there now, or maybe not questions, comments. Wholeness and balanced vibrations to you and our brother. All is self. All is well. All is self. Now dot here dot b. Cheers, mate. Thank you, Daniel. Cheers, brother. Police be tripping. How much water work? Oh, sorry, things scrolling up. How much water work was actually in selection, in SA selection? Not a lot. Not in New Zealand or Australia. Um, not a lot of water work during the selection. So the selection part itself, uh, on cycle, again, bugger all on cycle with regards to water work specific. And the water aspect more predominantly come into play once you are either in or once you're doing your insertion course. So water operators, those fellows are living wet, cold, and sandy during during their course. Um, and then those of us have a little bit of exposure to it as we go. I wasn't in water troop or amphib. I was in vehicle mounted in Australia, so we did a little bit of water, but nothing compared to what the water troop guys did. And then again, dare I say, nothing compared to what SBS do and or the SEALs, obviously. But the water troops have that skill, so they do spend a heck of a lot of time in the water and working in the water and on the water, working on those skills. Hopefully that helps. Why was there any breath holding or underwater confidence stuff like the Navy SEALs do with drown proofing, or was it mostly just the tread water and the 400 swim? Yeah, nah, there's no drown proofing during the selections in NZ or Australia. None of that hands tied behind your back or ankles tied or any of that sort of stuff. No breath holds, not during the selection anyway. So that's stuff that I, I I think they incorporate some of that now once they're again probably part of the Amphib course, which I didn't do. But there was nothing during my time during selection and the cycle. Just wasn't part of the curriculum, so to speak. Hopefully that helps answer that. Sup, bro? Welfare check. Cheers, bro. Yeah, all as well. It says cheers. Kia ora, Joe. Hope you're well. How much pure running, e.g., just simple zone 2/3 running, do you do as part of your training, if any? Cheers. Haven't been doing some running for a while. Well, I was doing a fair bit of running till my bloody Achilles started playing up again. And before that, it was my knee. So my left Achilles, my left knee, my left calf, right-handed, left-footed, 1 foot, predominantly jumper, takeofferer, and yeah, I guess probably the demand for what I was doing with the sports and then running and stuff wasn't looking after making sure that I had the capacity to be able to deal with that. So I hadn't been running for quite a long time. When I say quite a long time, probably I'd say the better part of a year, maybe even longer than a year. So my cardio was using the ski erg, was using the rower, was using the Airdyne bike when I'd go to a gym, or not so much the Airdyne here because the pedals puckaroo, the left pedal's broken. So really only getting to use the upper body part of that. And step ups and things like that. And then, even then, I still wasn't as fully as what I've been doing right now, focusing on improving the particularly the Achilles. So that's been a good focus. The knee focus has been good. So the knees made massive progress. And so when I'm running, or when I was running, up until it's probably been, I think the last runs would have been the ones that I've posted where daughter came home late and then just took her for a 10K run. Uh, that felt good. It was okay. Achilles was bloody sore the next day though. So from that, however long ago that was, what's that, couple of months? I think from that period in time, I've been heavily focusing on just trying to get my Achilles sorted out so that I can run consecutive back-to-back days. Running, if you're talking about running for, oh no, you're just talking about this as part of my training. So yeah, running hasn't been a part of it for a while now. Just been focusing on trying to get that sorted out. But the rowers there, backwards walking has still been part of that because I find that helps and it keeps my knee healthy. But running, yeah, running's good. I do miss it, so I do need to sort out and focus more on getting the wheels, my feet and ankles, and the Achilles in particular strengthened, so that it can cope with the demand. The other part that it's messed up as well is my ability to go and shoot around or play like basketball, which is something that I enjoy as well, and volleyball. So just those short, sharp movements, and even a jab step, or um, the footwork involved in basketball. Not so much footwork involved in volleyball, but the jumping involved in volleyball. So that has, yeah, bloody hindered a lot of that stuff, which I enjoy doing. So yeah, the focus is to get that sorted, what I like, another one of those things that I like about knees over toes guy, um, Ben Patrick. Like he's a basketball player. I think he was told he'd never play basketball again with the surgeries that he's had on his knee and I think the whatever thing he's got in his kneecap or in both kneecaps or in one of them. And that dude's moving super well. So I've been paying a lot more attention. He's got some stuff there on the Achilles and building those up. So I've been just dialing everything back as far as the Achilles from the ground up stuff goes. And then, yeah, and then it's just lifting and farmers walk stuff and this other basic stuff. But in terms of the running side of things, yeah, I've stopped the running um, since the last probably few runs where I took the daughter for her getting home late run. Hopefully that answers that. Dan, kia ora, bro. Hi all. Hey Joe, good to see you back. Yeah, still around. Just yeah, this'll. I don't know when the next live will be or when the next video will be, to be honest. So yeah, appreciate those. Appreciate all of you, people that spend time here or that have reached out. There's been a number of people that have done check-ins as well, messages through IG, emails, messages saying, "Hey, haven't seen your stuff," or some people have said, "Hey, seen your post. Hope everything is okay. Sing out if you need anything." So I've replied to those people. But yeah, really humbling. Really appreciate the check-ins. Nothing's wrong. It's just focusing, trying to focus as well as I can on stuff, and when things come up, for me anyway, uh, focusing on those things that I feel like I need to get done, just helps me get through them. Yeah, I'd say better and sometimes faster. Not always faster, but I think definitely better when I take that time and just focus in on it. So yeah, that's what's happening there. Could you switch between troops or was it go where you are needed? For the most part during my time, it was where you were needed. Couple of guys in my troop and vehicle mounted got an opportunity to do the free fall course. So when things like that come up, I wasn't one of them, unfortunately. So, but when things like that come up, you do, uh, and there's what's the bloody word I'm looking for? Or there's the opportunity to go and do another insertion course, then yeah, guys will generally put their hand up. Um, and sometimes you might only get to do aspects of what might be an overall insertion. So the small boating and stuff, that was a cool course. Hard work, gave a bit of an insight into just a glimpse of what some of the wateries do, the water operators do, and the casing and the setting up of the boats and all that sort of stuff, jumping out with the bundles and all that sort of thing, and then popping those and then getting into them and then getting onto shore and then digging and casing in the sand and putting all that stuff away and then digging them back out and then going on to after you've cased it, do the task, come back out, dig it out, and then get back out into the water, exfil and all that sort of thing. A lot of hard work. Probably, I think I know of some of the guys, water operators, that said they found just the pure amphib water course worse and harder than the selection. And not surprised after just some of that little insight, which I and a few others had the opportunity to experience. But yeah, if there's a need, and then you'd usually you could move people around, but it wasn't something that, at least not during my time, you couldn't just put your hand up and go, "Oh, I want to go be a free faller now," or "I want to go be a water operator now," or whatever. You were put where you were, and for a reason, because they had gaps there that needed to be filled. And then you serve and work there, and then, like anything, over time, when you develop some experience and time under your belt in that space, I would say it's harder to then move out of that space and go somewhere else. Not because the individual doesn't want to, and not because they don't want to get more skills and experience in other areas, but because you almost become um, like an SME or subject matter expert for that particular area, because you've been through the iterations through your training, what's been used in the past, what's been happening there currently, the lessons learned taken away from operations and training and or exchanges with other units, or what you've seen other units do in that particular space. And then you bring it back, and you can help develop that and do things in that space to pay it forward, so to speak. So it can be a bit bit more of a challenge, I guess, to just pick and choose and move around. Although, you know, I'd love to, and I'm sure that there are still people today that would love to do that. But there are reasons for why they maybe don't let that happen, or why they didn't let that happen during my time. Not freely, anyway. Maybe it's something that is allowed to happen now. I don't know. I would be surprised if it is. I think there'd probably still be a lot of the same sort of um, not concerns, but the same sort of rationales in terms of the people that they've got in there and the need to try to build that capability. And then I think from time to time, there's still opportunities for people to go and do those other various courses within the troops. Uh, if you're talking just changing troops, sorry, I might have made an assumption there in terms of you talking about skill sets or insertion skills. Where are we? Switch between troops. If you're talking about just switching between troops, there were people that um, operations requirement need where you would bounce between different troops. But if we look at Afghanistan as an example, it wasn't a water operations based activity. So all of the troops were doing desert operations. Same when we went to Iraq, everybody, like, or not everybody, but by and large, we were, oh no, yeah, everybody, we were out in the desert, and we had um, some different insertions on getting into the Western Desert, into our areas of operation of what we're doing. But we're out in the desert. We didn't free fall in to Iraq in 2003. We didn't swim or get into the desert into Iraq via boats or anything like that. So vehicle mounted was the predominant means. Gives you that, gives you the um, a whole lot of benefits in terms of having the vehicles, or the LRPVs, long range patrol vehicles, out in the desert. Quicker to move, quicker to get out of there if you needed to, can carry a heck of a lot more equipment, ammunition, firepower, etc., etc. So less demand on the person physically, from not having to carry all the weight perspective, uh, but still, enough of a demand. But from a mental perspective, psychological perspective, just not as heavy a demand physically with regards to, because you're not carrying all that weight day in, day out. So anyway, hopefully that helps. But from a troop perspective, yeah, you'd have you could have water operators and free fallers amalgamated into the same troop, depending on the task of the operation. So hopefully that makes sense. If it's a water specific task, though, then depending on the other troops or the other insertions skill set, like if they've done some of that ship alongside and boarding ships from ribs and or other boats and all that sort of thing, and if they've done some small boating, then there's potentially an opportunity to be utilized for some of that work. But the nitty gritty, the details, the other stuff that the water operators are highly skilled at, well, they're going to run with water operators to take care of that sort of work. Um, cheers for the reply, including your Achilles. Hope the bugger heals up soon. Yeah, me too. It's going well. But yeah, another question. If you go back, say, to your early 30s, what advice would you give regarding a good basic general physical preparedness plan and injuries, or even me back into their 30s? Oh, man, I think the only thing that I would incorporate now, being nearly 50, which I still think is young, but is have spent more time doing the things that I've seen, that I watch and follow Ben Patrick, knees over toes guy do. I would spend more time building resilience and strength, and with the isometric holding, the slow and controlled, like working up to levels of body weight, just so that I don't have this period in my life, which it feels like bloody forever, where a large chunk of what I enjoy doing, which is the running, has been uh, through not necessarily avoiding pain, but just through the um, inability to function as well as what I might like to the next day and the next day. I've had to dial that back and effectively stop it for quite some time. And so that sucks. So if I was to use your question and think of what advice, I would spend more time making sure that the tendons are good, working from the ground up. The Achilles is good, the calves, the knees. Like it's when I would get right into leg training, I was just quads and probably not even hammies dominant. Like I focused more so on like Olympic weightlifting, which I really liked. So a lot of front squatting, back squatting, overhead squatting, snatch, clean and jerk, deadlifting, and neglected uh, like the other little muscles and stuff. I don't know if little muscles is the right term, but the other parts that connect. So um, probably didn't do enough hip and glute work, as an example. I definitely didn't do enough for down to the toes and the ankles and the Achilles and all my calves. So those things I would, yeah, I would adjust what I was doing back then and spend more time incorporating that sort of stuff instead of waiting till where I'm at now, and then things are a bit creaky, a bit stiff, and a bit sore, and limiting. Excuse me, from a running perspective, uh, so that I don't have to be at that stage. Could I run? Like if I had to get up and run, yeah, I could go and do that and run if I had to, but because I don't have to, um, spending time on trying to get that stuff better so that I can run whenever I want to is sort of the goal for me now. Or not sort of, that is one of the goals for me now. And then what else did you have here? What advice would you give to someone in their 30s just wanting some good baseline fitness? Oh yeah, so good baseline fitness overall. So those little things in terms of making sure that the little parts where I suppose the hinges can get a bit squeaky, or they are on me, um, work on those, and then general physical preparedness like running, swimming, lifting weights. So being able to lift weights, whether that's barbells, dumbbells, odd objects, sandbags, rocks, whatever, carrying weight on your back, and then body weight stuff. I think those five things are pretty good. Like I've not really gone away from, and those things are pretty much included in a selection program. And I think having a good baseline general fitness of running, swimming, body weight, pack work, being able to carry weight. So whether it's jerry cans or whether it's fireman's carrying your mate, or whether it's lifting and doing, like squat, bench, and deadlift. If you just did those three exercises, but then you incorporated all the running, the swimming, and your body weight stuff in addition to that, I think, yeah, I think that's like I've trained like that for a long period of time. There's been long periods of time where I haven't done a lot of swimming, but then jump back into the pool, and yeah, it takes a little bit to dust the cobwebs out of the lungs and get the water out of the lungs after drinking and swallowing a bunch of water. And then it doesn't take long to get back into it. I'm not a super skilled or technical or fast swimmer by any means, but I can get in a pool and just swim for however long I need to go for or choose to go for, whether it's 30 laps, 50 laps, or whatever, or more or less, or just for time, and just plod along until that's done. So yeah, run, swim, body weight, lift and carry stuff, do weights and that sort of thing. I think those 4 or 5 activities will give anybody a good baseline of fitness, doing different things. I'm not a I don't subscribe to a if you could only do one thing, what would it be? I think I have answered. Maybe I've answered that question another when people have asked me before. I think maybe I chose the clean and jerk, or clean and press, and it's like squat, clean and press, and a burpee. I think might have been the 2 exercises that I chose. If that's all I could do, I didn't choose just running, because um, yeah, I think running has its limits in terms of in terms of strength work, obviously, um, body weight work. Although if you're running enough and just doing running is probably making you lighter, so you could probably lift your body weight reasonably easy, I guess, maybe. But I wouldn't want to test that theory, so I chose the clean and jerk, or clean and press, and the burpee, because you can attack the lungs still, and you can get stronger. And so yeah, but I wouldn't just choose those 2 things: run, swim, lift weights, uh, carry stuff, and do your like odd objects, whatever those are, and body weight stuff. Maybe the carry stuff and weights is just one thing. Run, swim, and lift and carry stuff. And then don't forget the body weight exercises. So that's my 2 cents, man. That's what I try to do. But like I said, my running has been out of action for a while. And to be fair, I haven't been in the pool for a while either. It's been probably since maybe September, August, September last year. So yeah, been a while since done any swimming. I probably should go back to the pool. That's probably quite good for the Achilles and everything else. But anyway, duh, 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 Afghanistan work was similar to the work David Sterling had done. Correct me if I'm wrong. Um, yeah, probably probably a lot of similarities in there in terms of the raids that they were doing, going into knowing Taliban strongholds, kill capture missions. Yeah, yeah, probably very similar too. I, I'm no expert on David Sterling and what they were doing. I've watched Rogue Heroes and I've seen read some of the stuff that they were doing. And yeah, probably to your point, probably some of the stuff was probably more similar to what they were doing. Not identical, but a lot of similarities, I guess, in different phases of what they were doing over there in Afghan. How do you prevent calf cramping during periods of excessive running? Um, Good question. I don't know. I have to say I don't know that I've suffered from calf cramping. I've pulled and strained my calves. Um, I haven't felt when I've been and they've happened just like suddenly. So if I know what cramps are like when you get a cramp in your leg or even in your arm and stuff like that. But I can't say that I've oh no, yeah, I've had cramps in my calves from rolling on the mats and doing jujitsu and stuff like that, and I've felt that when it starts to come and then needing to stretch that out or and then trying to relax. So yeah, no, I have had calf cramps in there, but I haven't had them during running. Usually for me, my calf injuries from running have been something's gone twang and bloody uh, pulled or strained something, and then I then have to start limping and take the pressure off, and then let it heal up and try to strengthen it up again. So a lot of the stuff that I've been doing in terms of prevention, I would say the stuff that Knees Over Toes guy does is likely super helpful. And then people with much more experience than me on the interwebs and YouTube and physios and things like that have got some cool content and stuff in and around preventing calf strains and injuries and all that sort of stuff, can probably give, you know, not probably, will give way better advice than me. I'll be like, I think probably like a lot of people, go on the interwebs and then find some like type in Achilles injuries. How do I recover? What's the best way to recover and heal up Achilles injuries, which haven't been snapped? So thankfully, in my case, I haven't snapped it. Have had scans and stuff done on them, and they've said that there's yeah uh, degradation or degrading in terms of the my Achilles tendon itself, and the need to take it easy. They put me in a moon boot and all that sort of stuff, and then gave me some rehab stuff. And then, you know, even then, I still thought, yeah, I don't need to carry on doing it. Like, soon as I felt like it was all right, out the window with all the rehab, stop doing all the isometric stuff, stop doing the slow control, stop doing the weighted progressions. I don't even think I got to some of the weighted progressions. It's like, oh, this feels better. Yep, cool. Back to thinking I could just go back to normal. But um, not forgetting, taking for granted and disregarding the scans and the information that the doctors had given and said, hey, your Achilles is not the way it was when you were 20 to 25 to 30. And you need to start trying to get that sorted out and let some of the scarring and stuff heal up properly. So my own fault. Um, but yeah, trying to rectify those things now, which just means I feel like it's taking longer than probably what it would have had I been smarter and did what I was told the first time. Da, da, da. So calf injury. Sorry, yeah. Check out the interwebs and check out the physios. Find somebody that you like and trust. For me, that's Ben Patrick, knees over toes guy. I really love the stuff that he puts out there, and um, the explanations, the demonstrations that he's got. Yes, he's younger than me, and it may be very well easy to go, oh yeah, of course you can move like that because you're bloody younger than me. But I don't know his story. I don't know the surgeries that he's had, other than what he's spoken about. Seeing that he works with his parents who are in their mid to late 60s and early 70s, his mum and dad, seeing how well they move, and the work that he gets them to do, and then other clients that he's got that he helps, and people that have come out and spoken about, the work that he's, or not the work that he's done and how it's helped them in their progression. And I know for me, when I've been consistent and working with it, like it's done wonders for my knee anyway. So probably not probably I've neglected the Achilles, and I'll get into that now. And so I've been consuming a lot of his stuff in and around the Achilles, and I've been making sure that I do some of that, um, not each day, just because of it's when I tried to go all in and tried to heal and recover quicker, I figure, oh, do more and do it every day. It'll heal up quicker. Yeah, so about 3 times, sometimes 4 times a week. The little gap in between in terms of the Achilles specific stuff that I'm doing, because I have and did feel it the next day when I thought, oh yeah, I'm going to do these exercises every day. Like they don't seem like much, especially the isometric stuff, and then the gradual progression with adding weights and then slowly descending down. I think, oh, yeah, I can do this every day, like 3 4 sets. It's easy. I'll do 10 sets. But I guess that accumulation and not getting any younger, the Achilles the next day and the next day and the next day when I was doing that, was talking to me and saying, "Hey, you probably need to pull your head in. It needs time to be stressed, and then it needs some time to heal and recover, and then you can stress it again." So trying to be a bit wiser with what I'm doing in that space, particularly for my Achilles. The rest of the body feels good, so um, I can still go and do stuff. Get on the rower, do backwards walking, pick some stuff up, walk up and down the driveway, do some lunges, whatever. So there's plenty of things that can still be done. Um, dun, dun. What's the main navigation I should focus on? What's the main navigation I should focus on? Not sure what you mean. If you mean like navigation as a whole, is what if you're preparing for selection, then learn how to navigate. So open country and close country, they are very different. The terrain's different. Your timings will be different. Um, your route selection needs to be better. So when you're talking navigation, what should you focus on? Focus on everything. So how to how to shoot a bearing for one, how to well, your map, get familiar with the map, the legend of the map in terms of what everything means, your magnetic variation for that particular map. If you're military, get used to that military grid reference system, 6 figure grid references, 8 figure grid references, up to 12. Probably don't need up to 12. 6 and 8 figure are more than enough in terms of giving the information of where you are, or a lockstat in terms of where you are on the map in relation to the ground. Learning how to map to ground, so reading the divots and the reentrance and the river systems and the peaks, the spot heights, the features, etc., on the map, and where they are on the ground, being able to see those, how to do a resection, um, or yeah, everything. So your distance over 100 meters, how many paces you take over 100 meters, what your bias is, left or right. So you have a partner for that. Have a wide open field. Rugby field's usually pretty good. Blindfold yourself, go out and do that. Walk after you've done, unblindfolded, and you know how many paces you take to 100 meters. Do it on that same field. Have a partner. They don't say anything to you. They're just there, and for added safety. Blindfold. Start at one end, pace, do your counting. If it's 60 or 65 or 70 paces that you take to 100 meters, counting every left foot or right foot, whatever your preference is. And then once you get to the end, take off your blindfold and then see where you are. Did you veer massively right or massively left? For me, I discovered not that long ago I had a massive right bias. It's almost like I started doing a U-turn, or a or a full circle, probably 10, 10, 15 meters into me stepping off to do 100 meters, and ended up, I think one of the videos that I put up was out at the Mana um, field, rugby field, and started at one end of the rugby field and then walked, and then I think I ended up straight out at almost a 90-degree angle. And I only realized because on the side of that field it starts to go uphill. So when I felt the ground starting to go up, I was like, "Oh, this doesn't feel right. That's not the rugby field is. There might be some potholes in the school rugby field, but it doesn't feel like it goes uphill like that." So yeah, I'm pretty sure that's on my YouTube channel there somewhere. But yeah, doing all of that stuff when it comes to navigation, there's a whole bunch of stuff to learn. That's not to make it sound complicated. I think if I was to break it down, for me, when I went on selection, I was not great at map to ground. Uh, I would say I probably wasn't even great at doing resections. Um, but what I could do is I knew my paces to 100 meters. I knew how to shoot a bearing in terms of, I'm here, I need to get to there. I knew how to take that bearing. I knew what the magnetic variation was. I knew what the calculations were in terms of converting a mag to grid or grid to mag and what I needed to do with the magnetic variation. And then um, I knew how to, when I'm using my compass, picking a point out in the distance that's on my bearing, and then putting that compass away and then hammering as quick as I could to get to that, as close as I could to that particular point that I picked out, or right on it, and then pull out my compass and then pick another point. What that meant for me from a skill perspective was that I was one of those guys that was up, down over features. So not really great when you've got a lot of hilly terrain. And if I had have been better at my map to ground and that sort of thing, I could have, you know, chosen better routes, which would have saved me not only energy, but it probably would have saved me time, to be honest. So yeah, that's hopefully that helps answer that. There is a lot in navigation, but you don't need a lot. Well, I think I'm evidence of that. You don't need a lot when you're going onto selection, if that makes sense. My my ability in navigation and stuff developed after, like on cycle, with the help of people like Bill Bestick and other people, and even before that, whilst I was on pre-selection with the help of people like Brian Wynell. He was a recce platoon commander on my selection in NZ, or the selection that I did in New Zealand. He helped out massively. Bill Bestick helped out massively on cycle, um, and then I just became a lot more comfortable with it. The more I practiced, the more exposure we had, and the more times we were out in the bush, and particularly when you're doing the patrol procedures part and you're out in the bush all the time, like you can't help but get better at navigation, I think, anyway. And so at least that worked for me. And then heading over to Australia, it just, I guess it just compounded, got better and better. Got better while we are in Australia, pre-deployment training. Got better when we went to Timor, out in the bush, especially when you're the scout and part of the scout group as well. So if you're alternating between lead scout, cover scout, like you better be good at nav. You're not there to just rely on the patrol commander or the 2IC. It's not their job. It's everybody's job. And the team of men that I was with, like Nick Caldwell being one of those men, like, yeah, my ability with regards to navigation was being surrounded by better people, and yeah, and the need to, like, just you can't help but get better because you're doing it all the time is what I'm getting at. So yeah, hopefully that helps in terms of your navigation question. Lots to do, but I wouldn't be overwhelmed by it. Like, just pick a few things and then work on those and then get better over time. The fittest are the MWK Mad Watery KTs on dive course. You basically sweat underwater on course. Did you do much underwater compass navigation, swimming, dive, finning, leg flutters, builds core? Yeah, yeah. There's a bit of that. For me personally, I didn't do a lot, but as part of some of the stuff that you got to do, um, but nowhere near as much as, like, again, that particular skill set, like what I just went into then talking about navigation and all the, I say, dare I say, different components of it. There's just lots in navigation that you want to be confident and proficient, and competent at when you're doing it. Similarly with water stuff, there's so much. Like, I only got to do the small boating, did some underwater work, not a lot. Um, and then you've got the wateries that are just living, breathing that day in, day out, pitch black, uh, doing long dives, doing long navigation legs, buddy diving, all that sort of stuff, spending a heck of a lot of time in the water. Like I said, they spend a lot of their time being wet, cold, and sandy for the most part. And yeah, it's just hard work without having done the full water operators course at all. I wouldn't even say I haven't even done a fraction of it. Like small boating and doing a little bit of diving and compass board work is, in my opinion, is nothing compared to the to the overall scope and depth of the work that they put in. So yeah, it's my take on there. And I'll be honest, like, acknowledging what you've said, e-baby secrets. I feel like the water operators were, if they weren't the fittest, they were typically always, I think, overall, like in comparison, maybe comparison isn't the right word, but overall, like water operators, vehicle mounted, free fallers, the majority of water operators were, I feel like, were fitter than the other troops. It's not that the other troops weren't fit, fast, strong, and capable. So that's not that at all. They were, and there were some weapons in both of those, or in all of those troops, but in those other areas that were non-water operator units that were just super like freaks, machines, fit as, probably blow away any of the water operators. But overall, in general, oh, I would say, yeah, water operators were, I felt like they were fitter anyway. Yeah, that's just my honest take. Some people might not agree with it. Uh, each to their own, whatever. What's this? Leg flutters builds resilience on your back. Yeah, yeah, 100%. The 4 count flutter kicks or 8 count flutter kicks. Typically, it's four count flutters, like doing 20, 50, 100 of those, 200 plus. Like they're miserable. Do them in the water, do them just on the ground, not in the sand, not in the water. Um, Build your core, right? Keeping the feet off the ground, needing to get those legs up as a minimum to at least 45 degrees, sometimes 90 degrees, and then coming down and keeping them 6 inches off the ground, that sort of thing, and just constantly moving. Uh, yeah, a miserable, miserable experience. When is Rogue Heroes Paddy Malone new series back on? I don't know. I have no idea. It's pretty cool though. Like I'm pretty sure I've watched all of the episodes that were available. So it'd be interesting to see what happens. I didn't even know that. Is it Paddy Malone? Is that the guy that's the director? Is it? So I don't know. But Rogue Heroes has been yeah, it was cool. I binged watched that when it came out. Kia ora, Joe. Just have a question. Was there a recruiting thought you had when going through selection tasks like Open Land Nav and Von Tempsky? Oh, recurring, sorry, recruiting. Was there a recurring thought? And what was your pacing like during this? Recurring thought, I think navigation probably really only became the recurring thought when I, and not a good time to have it, was when I was on pre selection. So when I got to Auckland, and then just really started feeling uncomfortable, or yeah, uncomfortable, anxious, didn't have the confidence in my navigation, because like I said, I wasn't very good from the perspective of map to ground, wasn't very good. Um, I like resections, working out where you are on the map to confirm. Didn't feel like I was very good at that. I knew the calculations and the formulas. I knew, yep, pick 3 features that I reckon that's what they are. Shoot my bearing to them, convert that to a grid back bearing, and then where the lines intersect, etc., etc. That's then you're roughly in the middle of that, ideally a cross or a small triangle, and you'd be in the middle of that roughly. So I had those basics, but again, still wasn't like super confident in my ability in that. So that probably became a recurring thought for me, uh, which again, not a good time, not a good time to have that recurring thought, and not a good time to start thinking, oh crap, maybe I should have spent more time on my navigation. Hence why I've banged on about that in other videos, when people have asked, like, spend that time on your navigation, um, and go on to selection feeling really comfortable, confident with your nav before you go on it. It's super helpful. So then you don't have that recurring thought like what I just had. I never thought about this recurring thought till just reading your question. So thanks for that. And then the other one, like Von Temsky. Nah, for me, Von Temsky, I thought about that before selection. I have to admit, it didn't cause me, I don't feel like, and I don't recall it causing me any anxiety or making me nervous or worried. Uh, If I'm honest, I feel like, as I sit here and reflect on that, I feel like I probably felt more leaning towards excited about doing that than being anxious or scared or nervous, because there was no navigation involved in it. It was just, um, it was just work. It was just hard work. Uh, Head down, backside up, so to speak. Weight on your back, and follow the directing staff. Do what they tell you to do. Put them down when they tell you to put them down. Move when they tell you to move. Stop when they tell you to stop. That sort of thing. And it was just like, I wasn't. I knew going into that I wasn't really going to need to be have any technical skill. Excuse me. I just I felt like I just needed to have some heart, have a backbone, and put up with the misery that's going to happen for the next 20 to 24 hours. That was where my headspace was for Von Temsky. Um, the only one reoccurring really, which caused me to be nervous, was the navigation. But once I got through the open country navigation, that thought left my head. When I say excited, it's not like I was jumping for joy. It's not like I was pumped up, like, yes, I can't wait to pick up these jerry cans and walk for 20 to 24 hours over the sand dunes. So it wasn't that feeling, but it was a feeling of, I'm looking forward to doing this, because here I'm going to find out if I really want to be here or not. And then I think I've mentioned this in another Q&A video. One of the directing staff, who's an awesome dude, good guy. He probably won't remember because he's probably helped out and was a directing staff on multiple selections. But on my selection, I remember him distinctly saying, "Who's still going to?" Words to the effect of, "Who's still going to be here at the end?" And I mentioned in other videos that pissed me off. That really got under my skin. It really annoyed me. It had happened other times in the compound when we were waiting in the first few days during the open country navigation, when a question was asked from one of the more newer guys. Actually, I think I'm pretty sure it was Jamie Pinnell who I mentioned, who said, and wouldn't have been long after. I think he might have been badged, or he would have been the last lot with the last cohort that got badged before my selection in '98. And I recall him saying words to the effect of, "Who's?" He said something similar to the other directing staff member, "Who's still going to be? Who reckons they're still going to be here at the end of selection, or put your hands up?" And so yeah, that annoyed me as well. Like, just a little, I suppose, you find things to give you, or maybe I imagine things, but I found things to give me more drive, is what I would say. And I found little things like that that gave me more drive, as opposed to finding things that caused me to be more anxious or nervous or concerned or worried that I wouldn't complete it, if that makes sense. If there was one thing that I was concerned about, which I mentioned earlier, it was not being quick enough on the navigation, not completing the navigation within the timeframes that I needed to. Not that you're given a time, so you're not given, you're here, you've got to get to here, and you've got this much time to do it. That never happens on any of the select, not in New Zealand, not in Australia. You just have a rough idea that you need to sort of maintain at least a 5 to 6 kilometer or more per hour pace, when you're moving, and that can be, depending on the terrain where you are, and the weight that you're carrying, and how little food you've had during that time, and what the weather's like, what the ground is like that you happen to walk into or walk across when you get there. There might be this really miserable patch of ground, which is just terrible, boggy, soft, sandy, whatever. And then just off to the left or right, it could be this real nice, not track, but nice, firm, stable ground, much clearer, better for you to move along so you can make up more time. Like those little things, I say little things, but they're important, can be the difference between people not making the timings and or blowing it out of the park. And then combined with that could be, if your navigation skill isn't very good or isn't at the very least at some sort of bare bones basic level that you can know your distance, know how to shoot your bearings, know how to use the magnetic variation correctly, whether you add or subtract, and that you have enough gas in the tank or fit enough, fast enough, strong enough to push when you need to push. And so, yeah, little things like, again, I say little things, but they all add up. They're all important. Hence why I said there's not just one thing in navigation, there's lots of things. But knowing to try to shuffle or run if you can, all the downhills. If you can shuffle all the flats, a bonus, and then not stopping on the hills. So keep plodding, keep moving, and try not to stop. Like that. That's the sort of, for me when I went on selection and the navigation piece. That's the sort of headspace my mind was at. I needed to keep moving. I needed to not stop. I can stop when I get to the checkpoint and report in with the directing staff and um, yeah, report what I need to report and then get the instructions from them, then go away, sit down, work out where I need to work out my bearings and stuff, plot all of that down, and then fill up my water bottles and then go back to the directing staff and then report. This is based on the information that they've given. This is where I am. This is the grid reference that I need to get to. It's roughly 15 kilometers or whatever it is. This is my bearing. I suspect it's going to take me roughly however many hours to get there, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever, 4 hours. And then the directing staff might have some questions for you to confirm, or they may just say, okay, or what are you standing here for? What are you still standing here for? Or they might just say, okay, piss off, whatever. So that when that would happen, then it's just time to just crack on and keep moving as fast as you can. So I think that might have been part of your other part of your question in terms of timing, pacing, and what was your pacing like during this? Um, I don't know. All I can say for what my pacing was like is that it was good enough. Is what I'd say. It was good enough, whereby I was under time, and I never once got spoken to about um, the need to pick up my pacing. I never got spoken to in terms of being given a warning or that I was moving too slow or anything like that. So I can only assume that my pacing was good enough, um, and I had in the back of my head wanting to try to maintain 5 to 6 kilometers, depending on the terrain, per hour as a minimum, and try to maintain that. Now, whether or not that's the pacing that you need to maintain, it may not be. It might be more than that these days. It might be less. I don't know. Um, it would be something that I don't know if it's less. Uh, it probably hovers around the same sort of ballpark. I reckon 5 to 6 kilometers or more per hour pace you want to try to maintain with your 35 kg pack webbing rifle, and moving over and through and around the terrain that you are having to navigate in order to get to your checkpoint. So, yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Plenty of ways you can go out and do that. You know, do a 12-kilometer time trial, do a 6 kilometer time trial with your pack. Do it on flat ground, do it on undulating terrain, do it cross country. Plot out, get some navigation practice in at the same time. Go out into an area wherever you are and go from the start point, whether it's at the car park. Use use a track or trail that they've got out in various ranges and areas in Wellington or Australia, or just go complete bush if you're wanting to practice your close country navigation. Obviously, take appropriate safety measures and all that sort of stuff. Let people know where you are. Go with a buddy if you need to, or if you've got somebody to go with. Um, make sure you've got your start point, you got a checkpoint of where you're wanting to get to, or a distance of what you're wanting to cover within a set period of time, and then crack on, get after it. So you get the navigation practice, plus you get the opportunity to wear in the boots to find the hot spots on your footing, your boots, your pack, your webbing, where things are rubbing, and apply your navigation and pacing and speed that you want to go at whilst you're under a little bit of stress, so to speak. If you want to, add more complexity or more challenges to that, do it with a crap night's sleep if you want to. Obviously, have safety things in play. Have people. That's why the selections are run so well. They've got a lot of safety elements in play. They've improved even better now. They've got tracking devices for candidates that they have to have with them in their gear these days. So if somebody gets massively lost, it's much easier for them to go out and recover them, or find them, recover them, put them back on track, and give them a tallying off or whatever. Or, if there's an emergency signal put up, then they can get to them a lot faster. So even on selections these days, there have been massive improvements from a safety perspective, which I think is good, so that you can deal with those things. So if you're going to add more complexity and make things harder for in your as part of your training and your prep for selection, which is cool if that's what you want to do, um, just be mindful and be smart about it as well, and put some safety stuff into play. Like, let your mates know where you what you're planning on doing, where you're planning on going. Even share with them the route that you're planning on taking, so that if worst comes to worst, you don't have your own tracking device, or you don't have a PLB or whatever, or your mobile phone goes dead, or worse, you get injured and knock yourself out, but you're on your trail or track that you're going, and people haven't heard from you within the time frame that you said you expect to get to from point A to point X or whatever. Then they can go, okay, well, we haven't heard from him. We're trying, we're calling, can't get him or her. Let's go to where we know that they were going. Let's do some dead reckoning and get on that trail and go follow the route that he said he was going. And then, all going well, hopefully nothing's wrong and they can get you out. But just being smart about it and planning that stuff out, I think is important, um, especially these days. We didn't have tracking devices during my selections in NZ or Australia during that time, but we did have an ANPRC 77 set. Vietnam vintage, dare I say, probably World War One, World War Two era. Maybe it wasn't, definitely Vietnam. Vintage radio with the old lithium batteries, and we had that, and we had the frequencies that we needed, and we had the antennas to screw in, and then you know do a radio check, lock stat, sit rep, and all that sort of stuff to let people know. And there have been people that have gotten lost during selections. But I'd like to think that these days, with the tracking devices that they have, it just adds a added layer of safety and security for that. Where am I? Sorry, this thing isn't scrolling. Here we go. Also, remember, navigation in Western Australia is different to the east. Yep. Wait until you do underwater navigation. You need to allow tidal movements, count your finning to reserve your energy. Look at that, eh? But yeah, 100%. So even though Australia is still Southern Hemisphere, the your grid to mag to grid, when you're doing the magnetic variation, is opposite. So my great aunt, if you're doing mag to grid, magnetic variation converting to a grid bearing, or mag bearing to a grid bearing, whereby you might add the magnetic variation, while when you're in Western Australia, you have to subtract that. So, those that know what I'm talking about or have an idea will go, yeah, yeah. Those that might not understand or might be confused might go, "Oh, what's he talking about?" So, going from New Zealand, going from the East Coast in Australia, doing it the normal way, and then going over to Western Australia, and then having to do all your navigation and stuff there. Uh, yeah, I would take, it did become more natural, but on selection, I would take a few extra moments to just pause and make sure that I have got that calculation around the right way, and that I have appropriately added or subtracted the magnetic variation before stepping off, and even before reporting to the directing staff before stepping off. So, yeah. crack up. You get to see the views and do the navigating of the Stirling Ranges peaks. Yeah, yeah, and or in Collie, and or in Lancelin, Bindoon, Bonnie Doon. Yeah, there's lots of good areas where you do we get to do a selection. For us, for my one in Australia, we weren't in the Stirling. We didn't do the Stirling Ranges, not on selection anyway. So we had Bindoon and then down in Collie. Um, so yeah, but there were some steep enough features and the bloody mongrel rivers and all the march flies and everything that were there, which was still miserable. Paddy Mayne, not Malone. Oh yeah, yeah, okay, yeah. Cheers to that, Charlie. Charlie 29. Yeah, Serviceman Jay gonna read his book. Yeah, definitely. It'd be a good read. I haven't read it yet, but I'm sure it'd be a good read. Just listening to Jamie when he's spoken on the various podcasts that he's been on, uh, it's yeah, it's cool. Brings back some good memories, and he did bring back some memories for me when I remember him saying words to that effect when we're in the compound. Who reckons he's still going to be here at the end of the day? Um, he doesn't. I don't know that I've shared that with him. We went out to they had a bit of a get together, and Jamie was there. Had a chat with him, but I don't think I've ever brought that up with him and said to him, "Yeah, you gave me added fuel to the fire when you said these words." Probably day one or day two of selection at that time. And then the other fella, I won't mention his name, but he's doing good things as well. Awesome dude, who said what he said just before Von Temsky on the dunes. So just these little drivers, and I think I've shared before. I don't know whether it was intentional or what, but during the day shift and then into the night shift, the directing staff that we had, two of them, in my view, were two of the like smallest guys in the unit that I observed at the time. One of them was Woodamoo Moffat. He was late afternoon into the evening. He was small, lean, like shorter guy, lean guy, clearly, obviously looked very fit, but he just looked very unassuming. Looked like a small guy, uh, wiry, and I just thought to myself, if these two, in my head, if these two little guys, that was what I thought, can pass selection, then I just thought I've got no excuse to not get through this. Like I had better be here at the end of this. Like that was just where my head went. So there were lots of little reference points and drivers that helped me on selection as I went. They didn't know that, but it definitely helped me. What's this one? Have you done any Norforce or any survival course navigation without any compass map aids to ground? Yeah, yeah. Like on the cycle, excuse me, on the cycle in Australia, that was part of it. They brought in Bob Cooper. I don't know if he's still alive, but really highly regarded fieldcraft bushman. Spent a lot of time with the local Aboriginal people, and he was amazing. He was awesome. Big, looked like remind me of Santa Claus, like big, um, big, heavy set, fair Pākehā fella, big white beard at the time. He had probably light brown with some white hair on the top of his head as well. Uh, really nice guy. That's what I recall of him anyway. But yeah, a lot of the stuff that he took us through and the teachings and the instructions that we received, that was an awesome course. It was hard. I found it challenging and hard for the fact of just being depleted of energy and and the terrain and the weather, the heat and all that sort of stuff didn't help. Excuse me, but you know, I wasn't alone. The small group that I was with, we were all suffering and struggling, and so the once 96 to 98 kilo frame uh, withered down to the low 80s, low 80 kilos, and maybe even close to where I ended up finishing on selection in the high 70s, 78, 79. But that's an awesome course. Yeah, using the stars, identifying those things, Orion's belt, um, finding the Southern Cross, using that as a point of reference in the nighttime when you could see the stars, and then using that as a point of reference to be able to navigate your way and find north. No compass aids, using a analog watch, using a stick in the ground, using the shadows and that sort of thing, using the hands on the horizon to work out roughly how much time is left in the day. Good memories. Like I've forgotten a heck of a lot of stuff. So probably wouldn't be very competent at all in going purely bush mode without any of those aids. But I wouldn't go out into the bush without having some aids to help. But yeah, it's an awesome course. And if you're like anything, if you're not constantly or regularly practicing it, oh, excuse me. If you're not regularly practicing that thing or those things, um, then those skills are going to deteriorate and you're going to forget a heck of a lot of stuff. So I'm definitely in that category. Again, because I haven't had the need to go out and do that. But yeah, great stuff. Clearly, you have by the sounds of things. Um, Solly, please check my email. Yeah, I saw your email. I will reply to you. I mentioned some comments in here about that and the kind offering from yeah, the people that have allowed or that have given permission, I should say. So yeah, appreciate that, bro. I will reply to your email. I did a verbal one at the start of this if you didn't see the beginning of the live, and just an acknowledgement and shout out to the HR podcast. Let's check email. You learn any tracking skills? Yep. To work your bearings out, or utilize the sky by using Southern Cross stars and navigate. Oh yeah, so spoke about some of that thick jungle environments and close navigation. Yeah, a lot of that stuff is cool. The need to climb sometimes, depending on how thick the vegetation is. If you can't get to a top of a feature, maybe you might need to climb a tree. I have to admit, in Australia, didn't really need to do that. Didn't need to do that in NZ either. But they teach and talk about potentially sometimes maybe the need to have to do that if you have to, but getting to higher ground and all those sorts of things. Yeah, there's lots of stuff, man. Just reading your comments brings back a bunch of memories, and then things that I think, oh man, yeah, those are cool. Definitely forgotten how to do a lot of that stuff. But yeah, they're great times. Like, all of that stuff plus the need to start fire from scratch, not just grabbing a piece of wood and rubbing it together. We use the bow and string method, with regards to starting having the hardwood and a hardwood piece or your base, and then is it softwood or medium type wood, and then you know getting that, having the bow and string method, and then winding that like using a saw, I suppose, so to speak, using your bootlace, or piece of string if you can, or something from the bush that can replicate string to a degree, and then creating and making that bow and string method to get the fire started. Like there were a bunch of competencies that you had to be able to do and demonstrate on the course in order to pass. So it wasn't a case of just surviving. You had to be able to start fire from scratch. You had to be able to apply the methods that you'd been taught when it came to I guess hunting and killing the game, and then skinning it, and then preserving food and all that sort of stuff. The navigation aspects, getting from point A to point B, as you mentioned, without navigational aids, all of those things, and then more making weapons, improvised weapons, or your napping and all that sort of stuff with rocks and making spears, and going quite primitive. Well, I guess primitive in that controlled environment for where we were, and needing to be able to demonstrate and show those things in order to pass. So if you weren't doing all those things or checking all those boxes, and then demonstrating, explaining, demonstrating, applying it, then you couldn't expect to pass. And then on the back end of that, when you think you couldn't be any more depleted and tired and fatigued and hungry and cold or hot and sweaty and whatever, and just wanting to eat and rest, then you get thrown in the bag, and then you have 72 hours of RTI or resistance to interrogation to then endure and go through. So they do a great job of combining a heck of a lot of stuff together, compounding back to back to back, breaking you down over days, weeks, and then culminating that. That's just for this particular course, and then culminating that with, you know, adding to the misery and you're going into the bag. So it's yeah, good times. Some of those times you're glad you can't remember so well, and then other parts that you do remember, you can't help but I think you can't help but laugh and reflect on it and think, bloody hell, we volunteered for this. We signed up and volunteered and said, yeah, I want to do this, and it was awesome. Like at the end, it's not so awesome during the moment. I can't think of any. I don't think I know of anybody that thinks that it's awesome during that time when you're going through resistance to interrogation, being in the bag, getting slapped around a bit, stress positions, being interrogated, um, having other bits and pieces and things done as part of that process. I know I, for one, wasn't sitting there or standing there or in a stress position thinking, this is great. I was like, I know it's not going to last forever. Probably my prevailing thoughts. I know this isn't going to last forever, and I know they can't kill me. So I can't wait till this is over. Where are we? Um, Good morning, Billy from Cool Country, Queensland. Mr. Buckaroony, bro, you have got a fantastic channel, Mr. Buckaroony. Sorry, I haven't put any comments and stuff on there. I've subbed, I've liked. You've got awesome stuff on there, and it's great to put a face to your name, to your handle. So again, anybody that's kind enough to follow me, check out old Mr. Buckaroony, and give him a like and a subscribe if you're, you know, if you're all right with that. He's got some awesome stuff in that on there, and I've enjoyed listening to you speak and watching a number of your videos, especially the ration pack stuff that you were doing, and some of the food and the concoctions. Like, oh man, that looks pretty nice actually. I didn't mind the ration pack food. Um, Took me some. No, it didn't even take me any really getting. I was going to say it took me a little bit of getting used to the Australian ones when I first went over, but it was pretty much the same as the New Zealand ones. But you guys at that time had M&Ms, had the plain flavored M&Ms in your ration packs, and I thought that was awesome. So yeah, no, pretty cool seeing your channel. So g'day Joe, a mate of mine is popping in this Arvo. He was SSM 152 when I was the SQ. Rick is on a lap of Oz in his camper. Oh wow, Rick was free fall qualified. That's awesome, Rick. Um, I don't know if I remember the surname, but it might be somebody else that I'm thinking of. Actually, I might be thinking of the former CEO, who was Rick. So I might be right off the way off track. But that's awesome, bro. Glad that you're catching up with him, and sounds like he's enjoying himself. Free fall qualified as well. Lucky bugger. That's this good game, the Savo up the wires. Oh, I haven't seen it. If the result's there, not that I mind. I'm one of those people that likes to know the result before, especially if it's a team that I like. If my team is lost, then I usually don't want to watch it, and I usually don't watch it. But so if it's up the wires, maybe that's a good sign if the game's happened, or maybe it's coming up. Navigation is such an interesting subject. I find it fascinating. Yeah, it's cool. I think there's some really good people. An X2 commando guy, what's his name? Clancy Roberts or Robert Clancy, something like that. Or Clarence. Apologies if I got his name wrong. He does, I think he's from Tassie, and he runs some courses over on the eastern states or in Sydney area. But he's got some good stuff, beginners, intermediate, and advanced, I think, sort of courses that he runs, which is cool. I'll be putting some stuff up on my channel in the membership space and under that selection prep area when it comes to navigation from the theory perspective, and then probably the practical stuff will be just me out in some of the areas here in the Wellington region, and yeah, just applying some of that stuff and talking through it. That will probably take a bit longer, I think, content wise, because there'll probably be, no, I don't know. Maybe I'll try and do it live actually. Maybe get a Starlink subscription or something and just try and do it live so I don't have to do too much editing. I can just do it in the moment and talk through what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and yeah, maybe that'll be helpful. We'll see. The theory stuff should be a bit easier to do. Um, that's just getting an understanding and delivering some of the theoretical aspects of navigation, and maybe that might help some people that might choose to or that might be interested in it. But yeah, definitely. I don't know if I find it as fascinating these days. I don't know if I ever found it fascinating. I think initially I just found it hard, me personally, and I think a lot of that just stemmed from my own limiting beliefs of my where I thought I was academically. Like I thought navigation was this blinking crazy. Oh wow, there's these mathematic calculations, and I've got to be able to read these grid lines and northings and eastings, and man, I've got to be able to understand every contour line on this map and every piece. And don't get me wrong, a lot of that stuff helps being able to understand, like I said, the legend and what's on the map. It's particularly the map that you're using. But like with anything, I discovered it wasn't as hard as what I thought it was. But again, like I said, a lot of that I think was my own limiting belief because I wasn't a very good school student. um, and I wasn't a very good school student because I chose not to be. Like in hindsight and reflection, I can see that now and go, yeah, I was bloody. At times, I was lazy. I just went to school to go hang out with my mates and play sport. That was what I loved about school, mates and sport. That's like school to me. That's what school was. What I got to do maths. I got to do assignments. I got to do exams. Yeah, no thanks. Not interested in that. Mates and sports though. Yep, sign me up. I'm there all day. But I wasn't there all day, particularly in high school. Just go there for lunch and recess. So anyway, off topic. Where are we? Um, Navigation fascinating. Yeah, yeah. So anyway, what about coastal navigation insertion? Yep, that's particularly on the small boating. That was a part of the course, and that took some man, that took me some getting used to as well. Like that was like this new thing that I needed to learn. It was different, completely different to. I found it completely different to the land navigation, coastal, being out on the boats. Um, yeah, I found it really, really different and challenging. And so again, but because I had all these other reference points of what I had been through to get to that point, I was like, yeah, this is just another thing that I needed to learn. But I'd be cabbage at that now. I'd be absolutely rubbish at it because never I just did what I needed to do to pass that course. And part of that course was being able to do that aspect of navigation. Um, using even just using the terms like using nautical miles, like that was from kilometers, like on the ground, and just different terminology. um the obviously the environment is different being out on water and then doing the coastal stuff versus being on the land. Yeah, I'd be absolutely rubbish at it now, or yeah, I'd be rubbish at it, but I would be able to learn it again if I was back in that environment or on a course needing to learn it. Like I'd be able to pick it back up, I think anyway. But yeah, it's yeah, a lot of stuff. Were you a water operator? You must have been, eh? E-baby secrets. Joe, did you ever get geographically embarrassed on selection? Yes. Yes, I did. I think I've spoken about that on actually on the Australian one. No. In New Zealand, yeah. Um, I don't recall ever getting misplaced or geographically not in the location where I was supposed to be on the Australian selection, but 100% on the New Zealand one. Yep. Yeah, I did. I think I spoke about that. I think would have been day two of the open country navigation. So effectively day three in the bigger scheme of things, but day two of the open country navigation. And uh, where I was and where I needed to be, I was probably a few hundred meters away from where I needed to be. But thankfully, to a degree, I realized that this is where I thought I was. That's not where I am. Ground looked different. I've seen things that shouldn't like that I shouldn't be seeing in terms of where I was supposed to be. So clearly, when I took my bearing and was following my bearing by and large for the most part, and I think this is where I, after that particular experience, was where I then um, focused more on checking my compass more frequently. So I think what may have, and I'm assuming here, I think what may have thrown me off was took my bearing, looked ahead, picked the point where I thought, yep, that's the point. Maybe I didn't have my compass lined up exactly right or as accurately as I could, and maybe that's what put me off. And then hammered towards that as I got closer. And then when you're standing in that area where you think you are, or where you think you were supposed to be, and then I'm looking at the ground, and even though I wasn't very good at map to ground, I could tell that what I was seeing, these things shouldn't be there in terms of where I needed to be on my map. And so, yeah, I was embarrassed and misplaced. Did not radio up for help. Felt like I was there for ages. Like, just I didn't go wandering out. Like, I didn't. And this is what I think. Not I think. This is what I reckon um, saved me to a degree and allowed me to be able to get back on track sooner rather than later. So stayed where I was, kept bumbling around, kept checking my map, kept checking the bearing that I took, checking the maths and the magnetic variation that I used, and did I do that correctly? Blah blah blah. And looked like all the theory stuff was right, but where I'd gone practically was I've moved and hammered to the wrong place. Anyway, I felt like I was stuck there for ages, man. I'd passed a number of people along the way, um, and when I got to this area, and didn't wander off. I was just sort of like, where am I? Like looking around, looking at the map, hoping that something will click and that things will like a light will go, here you are, this is where you need to go. That never happened. But pretty close. The thing that did happen was after being there for what felt like ages, I seen some big orange marker panels on other guys' packs in the distance, a few hundred meters away. And there was a few of them. And I thought, looked back at my map, looked over, and I thought, well, I'm here all on my lonesome. Those group of orange marker panels can't be wrong, and they look like they're in the direction or they're in the area of where I should be. So I chased them. I just ran towards, chased them, caught up, passed them, or not all of them, and still finished okay at the end of that day too. Like finished that navigation day overall, not too bad. But not as well as what I did on the first day. That's my lasting memory of being geographically embarrassed on selection. And that happened here in NZ. Yeah, but thankfully I saw them, and thankfully I had enough gas and legs. I think fear really drove me. Excuse me, my water. Anyway, I think fear really drove me to catch them. Um, excuse me, because in that moment I don't recall thinking about being hungry or starving, even though I know at the start of the day I was thinking how hungry I was. Oh, excuse me, definitely got the hiccups. But yeah, I think fear pushed me to push hard and then catch as many of them as I could and try and get past them so that I could finish as well as I could. Thankfully, that was the worst day in terms of being misplaced. Third day had a good day. When it comes to navigation on the close country, I don't recall ever, which is surprising, like, but I don't recall ever getting not knowing where I was on the close country navigation. And I think that's largely because there were a lot of main tracks in that area where we did the close country. So I knew that, if I go right here, or if I head due east, or if I head due west, or wherever I needed to be, or southeast, southwest, northeast, northwest, whatever, that I was going to hit a particular major track or road if I needed to. And as I've mentioned in other videos, I used the tracks where I could to try to make up time because I got caught several times by the directing staff who serve as a bit of a hunter force, or they did it at least anyway during the close country when I did selection in NZ. And we were briefed about it, and that if we got caught, that they were going to take us back 2 or 3 kilometers. So I got caught several times. And at least 2 times that I remember, I got driven back, piled up, bundled after we got some, not just me, but after we got some punishments, some push ups with the pack on. Got questioned about a few things. Then we got told to get into the back of the rover. They turned the rover around, went down the road a few kilometers, and then kicked us out. And then we had to go again. So for me, like I'm I'm going to try and make up time as well as I can. And if that means I've got to try to take calculated risks and make up time and get on the track and move, then that's what I was going to do, and that's what I did. Um, but I found the close country navigation. I found that, I don't know about easier. I felt myself more comfortable with it, and I think that's largely because there was some main roads and tracks. There were a whole bunch of tracks that were in there that weren't on the maps as well. A lot of logging tracks and things like that in the area where we were. Um, so that was a bit confusing at times. But again, I knew that my pacing and my bearing and my distance, if I just kept those three things nice and simple, that I'd be okay. And that where I needed to uh, take a tactical deviation on my routes and take a risk, a calculated risk, and try to make up some time as much as I could, as well as I could, by getting onto track. And so that's what I did. Um, I would say I don't know that everybody does it, but you know, people do it. You don't want to be blatant about it. So that's the other thing. I didn't do it blatantly. When I got caught by directing staff, it wasn't on a road or on a track. I was we felt that we were able to stay a few meters away from the road, 20, 30 meters, whatever, from the side of the road, because the ground was generally easier going rather than going further into the bush. So it was a bit easier to navigate. But obviously, the directing staff know that as well. The directing staff have been in that area and in those on that ground. They have a bit of an understanding of some likely points between checkpoint 1, 2, wherever it is that we're going, and where candidates are likely going to choose their route to take because of the going, the terrain and the ground may be a bit easier to sort of negotiate, and so they're going to set themselves up in those areas to give them the highest possible chance of catching some of us, which they did. And so they caught me and several other guys. I don't know how many times other guys got caught, but I know I got caught at least 3 times. And at least 2 times I got driven back. I think the third time, maybe they felt sorry for me and just gave me some punishments and then told me, don't get caught again. And after that third time, I didn't get caught again. But none of those times was I caught like bumbling down a track. There was one time where I was on a track looking to make up time because of the other times where I'd been driven back, and my head was on a swivel, like looking back, checking. And thankfully, I did look back, and I could see in the distance this dust cloud, quad bike coming. I knew that was definitely directing staff, and I just bolted into the bush. I was like, broke track, ran straight into the bush, hammered as hard and as fast as I could, got in as far as I could, up until the point where I could hear the quad bike, and then and then just dropped into the bush, took my pack off, laid down, covered myself up with some bushes and branches, and just laid there quiet until I thought that they were gone. And I shared that story as well. I think the instructor, I don't know who it was, but they yelled out, told me to get out here, saying, I know who you are." And I just lay there thinking to myself, there's no way in hell you know who I am. Like you couldn't make out who I was from that distance where I saw you, and I'm not coming out. So I stayed there, and till I heard when I thought the quad was gone, and even then, I still stayed and laid there quiet because I didn't know if there was two people on the quad or what. So maybe they left one person there, and then the quad, made it sound like that they took off. Those are all the things running through my head. But stayed there again for what felt like quite a long time, till I felt like it was clear, and then yeah, and then got up and continued tactically moving to my next checkpoint. Oh, crack up. Well, cracking myself up anyway. Uh, where are we? Mm-mm. Dun, dun, dun. Try taking a back bearing in the snow. Harder than it looks. It's from Billy. Taking a back bearing in the snow. I'm not sure what you mean, Billy. Excuse me. You mean walking the terrain on that back bearing, or do you mean just the calculation of adding or subtracting 3,200 mils from the back bearing itself? So what did you get to snare to eat on survival? Witchetty grubs or kangaroo on the menu? Far out. What a great question. Our snares didn't catch anything. We had snares on the NZ one and in Australia, and the snares that I set and that we set in our little groups, we caught nothing in our snares. Rubbish, useless. I thought this snare rubbish doesn't work. Then I watched that mountain leaders course in the UK, and I saw them snaring and catching the hares, rabbits, and stuff like that. And I thought, man, that's awesome. But my snares and the snares from my little group, we caught nothing. But what we did get, so we did uh, get some goat, and did we get kangaroo? We did kangaroo and emu. So one of the lads, I think he's out now. Awesome guy. We are on selection together. We are in 4 hour out together as well. Zulu is his nickname. Uh, just a just an incredible soldier. That's just my take. We were in the same group. Anyway, there was there were a group of goats. I think we had 5 rounds, maybe 4 rounds. 5 rounds each group. Had one rifle, which was unzeroed. It was a Steyr in the group, so nobody had a zeroed weapon. And you got given these 5 rounds. And at one stage of the course in Australia, I remember you didn't get this in New Zealand. One stage of the course in Australia, we were actually getting a brief, and it was from one of the instructors, former Vietnam veteran from the regiment, Kaz Merrick, I think was his name. He's in the Search for Warriors documentary and the essay selection. He's the guy in the room where they're interviewing, doing a little guy. Makes awesome jerky as well. Anyway, he was giving a lesson, and I think it was on some food preservation and drying out meat and basically making jerky so that we could take with us on the run and that sort of stuff, or when we're getting further into the course. Oh, what's the time here? Oh, okay. Anyway, we went through that, and as we were there getting the lesson, there was a just this group of goats out of nowhere that started herding behind us. It must have been maybe a couple of 100 meters. And anyway, I got to um, he paused. The instructor paused and said, "Hey, like we could take a shot, take a crack, and try and drop one of the goats." Anyway, I had the weapon, got given the rounds, loaded up the rounds into the magazine. We knew that the weapon wasn't zeroed. Hey, this is my excuse anyway. Nobody had a zeroed weapon, but let's wait until you hear the end, and you'd be like, "Yeah, sure, Joe." That's my story. I'm sticking to it. All right. Zero. The weapon wasn't zeroed, so we got given. All the groups got given one weapon each. Each of us had a Steyr in the group. Not each person, just one weapon for the group, and then the 3 to 5 rounds of ammunition. Anyway, turned, saw them there, lined up a goat, fired the first round, missed, dropped short. Aimed higher because we didn't have time, didn't worry about setting the sights or anything. Knew where my aim was, so aimed higher, fired around again, dropped short. And I was like, bloody hell, we only got 3 rounds left. Or maybe it was 1 round if it was 3 to 5 rounds. Anyway, Zulu, who was there, he goes, give me the weapon. He goes, here, give it here. So I was like, yep, there you go. He had the weapon, and first shot dropped it, dropped the goat. So I, I, I say, oh, he must have been his weapon. It wasn't his weapon, just clearly a better shot. And he dropped that goat on the first round. We then grabbed it, obviously skinned it, gutted it, all that sort of stuff, cut it up, and we got to use that animal to make some meat. We didn't get the whole thing, obviously. Staff were out there; they had to feed other groups, so we got a small portion of it that we were then tasked with then going through and applying the stuff that we had, and then drying it out, etc. And then we could take whatever meat we were able to dry out from that small portion of the animal that we had with us on the run, or with us as we continued through the course, which eventually led to going on the run. So yeah, and then emu we had, and again Zulu managed to drop um, an emu that was moving with the same weapon. So yeah, pretty cool that we got to have some food like that. So emu, kangaroo, goat. Um, the other goat that we had, this was when we were more on part of the coastal phase in a place called Kalbarri, I think was the name of the area. um, that was a miserable place where we were anyway, right along the shoreline, big massive rocks. I thought, oh sweet, I'll go in and I'll get into the sea because I thought, oh, we're going to be close to the ocean. I'll do some diving and get some seafood. Nah, nah, not where they positioned us. Bloody hell, it would have been death. Um, Trying to do any diving along that particular part of the coast where they had us anyway, where we were. So yeah, there was nothing, but we did get a goat. I sort of semi redeemed myself, I suppose, in this part. We went out foraging, a few of us. Zulu was part of that group again, and we ended up getting downwind um, of these goats that were coming towards us. So there's a massive amount of them, and they were moving towards us. I think I shared this in another video. It must have been ages ago now. Anyway, moving towards us, and we just burrowed ourselves down low into the bush, just waiting to let these goats get as close as they could. So we were downwind from them. They kept coming closer and closer, and we were thinking, "This is awesome." Because as we looked, there must have been bloody hell, must have been 15, 20 goats, and we didn't have our weapons were taken off us by that stage, so we didn't have a rifle with the remaining would have been one bullet left. We had to have we had our improvised weapons and tools. And for me, I had a club. I fashioned a club out of a solid piece of wood. That was my weapon. Other guys, had some spears, and other guys had clubs in that as well. Anyway, as the goats got closer, um, we felt that it was time because it seemed like they started to get um, twitchy or nervous or looking around or baying or whatever, thinking that something, maybe their senses were telling them that something wasn't right. And there's about 4 or 5 of us, and we're laid down waiting. They get closer and closer. Anyway, sort of make eye contact with each other. We figure they're close enough, and enough is enough, and we're going to get up and go and try to grab one of these and whack them over the head, and or grab it and then whack it over the head, kill it, etc. We jumped up into action, and they just, man, they took off so fast. They were fast as gone, bomb burst. I ran and chased one. That one, this is how hungry I was. That one went straight down what seemed like a cliff, really steep part of the feature that we're on anyway, down to the beach, or down to the flat part of the beach that was there. So it was really steep. I just bolted and followed it straight down. It ran straight down. It had its, I guess, its baby goat. I don't know what you call a baby goat, but its offspring with it. They both bolted down, these two in particular, and I ran down straight after that one. Zulu was chasing another one. Other guys were chasing other ones, but those other ones had, man, they had gotten away. This one felt like there was still a chance because they're going to get down onto the flat, onto the sand, and then I'm just going to keep chasing it because what was left was a steep rise. Now, goats are probably going to climb that much better than me, but I didn't care. So ran straight down. We got down onto the beach. I was actually gaining on the goats only because, in hindsight and reflection, because the adult goat, whether it was the mother or the father, was like staying with the younger one. And I thought, at the very least, worst case, if the big one gets away, if the parent gets away, I'm getting that little one, and we're at least going to get something. That's what went through my head. Anyway, kept running, and the adult goat just out of nowhere turned around. The little one just kept running in the same direction that they were going, turned around, ran straight towards me, and had my club. And as it came, I just whacked it, managed to get it straight across the head, and that stunned it. It was like I cracked it pretty good, and it was the one crack which stunned it. It dropped on the ground, and then I whacked it again. By then, Zulu had come down and was in close proximity. Oh, I've got a meeting that I need to jump into in 5 minutes. Zulu was there, and I then left the adult one that I just basically stunned or dazed. I felt anyway. It could have been faking it, but I don't know that. the crack that or the hit, and then the follow-up hit, like felt like it wasn't going anywhere. So anyway, chased the little one because I thought, yeah, we're going to grab this one as well, and the little bugger got away. Like we, I got to a point where I sort of cornered it, hard up against a really steep part of the beached area where we were. It was just basically straight up, and it tried. It went to go up, and it fell down first time, and then I thought, yeah, we've got it. So I'm going to grab it. I thought rather than clubbing this one, I'll grab it and keep it alive. And then it, after it fell down, come down, it looked, and then so it's looking towards me, and then it just turned around. Its head went up, looking up the feature, and then it just went, and it didn't fall down the second time, and it went and went and went, and like I didn't feel like I was going to be able to keep up with it, trying to chase it up there, and I just watched it go, and it got away. Um, and then anyway, Zulu and I went back to the one that was on the beach that we had managed to crack, and then we took that one back to our camp, and let's just say we ate well. We ate really well that night. The organs and everything. It was a good feed, really morale boosting feed after having next to no food over that time. Yeah, I mentioned kangaroo, emu, and goats, but we weren't getting for our group. We weren't getting those whole animals that was shared amongst the groups, and we got small portions of the animal to then divide amongst those in our group. But that particular goat that we got, um, we pretty much had the bulk of that. We did give one of the rear hind legs to the directing staff, who took it back, and I think we might have given a bit more uh, that he took to a hunter force that we knew was in the area at that time. But yeah, but we ate well. So although I didn't get one with the bullets, with the two shots that dropped short at that time, or another part of that same course, managed to get one with my club. And yeah, looking back on it, and as we looked at that, because then we had to walk back up that feature, we found another area pretty much close to the area where we ran down, which was still pretty steep, but it was worth it. Carrying that animal back up the feature and then across and then down into where our campsite was. Um, yeah, it was a good feeling going back there with the lads, and then had our fire going, and then doing the business, getting it sorted out, and then just cooking up and having a good feed. So yeah, that was a morale boost, that one. Anyway, I've probably missed, where am I? I've got a couple of minutes left before I better jump on this meeting with one of the people that I'm lucky enough to spend some time with. What are we? That was that one. How did you develop that sort of fortitude for resistance to interrogation? What do you mean, fortitude for resistance to interrogation? Do you mean like it is what it is, basically? Uh, I don't know about fortitude. I think again, before going into it, we all knew that at some point, if you get through selection and you go on cycle, it is mandatory that you go through resistance to interrogation, that you go in the bag, that you get slapped around a bit, and that you get tested. So knowing that before going on selection, before being on cycle, I think definitely helps. I think, the more information and awareness you have of something, the better prepared you'll be. Doesn't guarantee anything though, eh? Like, can be a great navigator, doesn't guarantee. Like, I know a number of people that great at navigation but quit selection, and have tried selection multiple times and failed, and then just went, yeah, nah, it's not for me. I'm not going back again. So you can have all the information, you can prepare as well as you can, and still not get through. So yeah, I think that drive, the personal drive, and just wanting to be there is what matters. I think anyway, is what counts by and large. So maybe that's what helped. Buccarini, got put in the bag twice during my career. Just the 24-hour one. I never want to hear John Lennon. Oh, we are sailing ever again. I bet. We didn't have any John Lennon on my one. We just had the white noise and static. But yeah, lucky you. I had heard about some of the exercises where staff and support staff and operators get thrown into bags at the end of exercises and that sort of thing as well. So yeah, respect, bro. It's a miserable experience. Eh? 300. Did the Aussies teach you about AFL? And if so, did you support a team? No, I wouldn't say the Aussies taught me about AFL. I've spoken about this before, but there was a team that I was lucky enough to do some work with in the leadership and team building space, and that was the Fremantle Dockers. And so, as far as AFL team goes, that's the AFL team that, because of some connection that I had with them, and I really enjoyed that time. That's the team that I supported during that time, and I'd still support them, although I don't know who their players are today. At the time, Mark Harvey was the coach. Simon Lloyd was assistant coach, I think. Bond, forget his first name. Bondi was the GM for the team. Matty Pavlich was the captain. You had guys like Mundy, what's his name? Aaron Sanderlands, Blinken. Oh man, there's a bunch of the players whose faces I can see, but I can't remember their names. But those are a handful of them. So yeah, probably the Dockers. All those Eagles fans over there be like, ah, bloody hell, not the Dockers. Yeah. Ricky Bennett was the SSM. Oh, okay. No, that's not the one I'm thinking of. Left before you got there. Okay, yep. Oh, yeah, salmon. Yep. Fish. Yep. I know Fishers took over from Rick as SSM. Yep. I know Fishers. Mr. Buckaroony. Yeah, cheers for that. Easy brother, how's it going? Your end, matey. Hoping that you're all okay. I remember my course in the UK forces. It was hell. I love the Jungle Blaze when was on selection, and I did pass it from UK. That's awesome, bro. Awesome to hear. Yeah, like your fellas jungle phase seems hearty, all right, in terms of where you fellas go, and the environment that you fellas are in. So yeah, pretty. It's I've enjoyed listening to when Big Phil Campion has spoken about it. So that's pretty cool. Coastal navigation coming submarine. Yeah, never did any submarine stuff or water jump in the ocean. Yep, water jumps were good. Building an inflatable is always interesting times. Yeah, being 40 nautical miles in ocean, all you think about is Mr. White swimming nearby. Yeah, bugger that. I didn't even need to be 40 nautical miles out in the ocean. I was still thinking about bloody Mr. Whitey. If it's not raining, you're not training. Yeah, as we say in the UK forces, ex forces UK. Yep, that saying definitely made its way to NZ and Australia. It's this one. You can have that. That would be scary. In 2000, a bloke was chomped by a great white off Cottesloe. Yep, yep. Water operator course started the next day. They must have been, yeah. In those areas, we'd do jumps into the ocean, just static line parachute jumps, and out into sort of ocean reef area. And can tell you, it wasn't SHITing by any means, but was definitely thinking, yeah, it could be sharks. And so having my knife easily accessible, or knives easily accessible when we were jumping out for those jumps, like was, yeah. Is that going to guarantee anything? Probably not. Probably just going to make it angry and would have ripped me up even more had something like that happened. But all I can say is I wasn't going to go without trying to do something, and so I can't do anything if I haven't got some tools on me to try and do something. So having my knives in areas where I felt like they would be easy to grab if I needed to, that was definitely part of the planning before jumping out of the plane. Snow doesn't always give you much reference points and the glare reflection from. So, oh, okay, yeah, I get what you mean now. Thanks for that. I think that was in response to Billy's comment. Yeah, yeah, that'd be pretty miserable, eh? Probably cover a lot depending on the dump and like the area where you're in. If you're not able to make out those features, yeah, good point. I never thought of that. When lost in snow, use a back bearing to figure out extraction location with forward bearing. Disorientation in the snow when no features visible. Yeah, gotcha. Yep. So thanks to eBaby Secrets and William Keith, induces anxiety. At least it did with me. Yeah, I bet. Well, it did with me on the NZ selection when I was geographically embarrassed. I had massive anxiety when I was going through that. My grandpa was crack marksman, a rat of Tobruk in Africa World War II. When he transitioned from citizen military force to the full-time AIF, they needed cooks, so transitioned infantryman to battalion cook. Man, awesome. The diggers were only eating tin can spam, bully beef, and heard there was rogue cow wandering desert nearby. Heard he was crack shot. Week after farmer missing cow. Diggers ate well for a week. Crack up. Given a few goats to eat, was pretty well cooked. Got Afghan police to cook. Next few days, we were sluggish and had to harbour up. Eating hard rats, everybody's bowels were purging, yeah, no doubt. Anyway, I'm 6 minutes late for my meeting with the person, but um, I will drop off this and go jump into there now. Appreciate the questions, and the comments, and the history, and the experiences that a number of you have shared whilst I've been on here. Thanks for taking time out of your day to be on here, adding in, asking questions, dropping in comments. Appreciate it. I'm going to leave you to it, and hopefully you have a fantastic rest of your Sunday and upcoming week ahead. And I will see you. I don't know when. I'll see you on the next video. As I said, just at the moment, I've got to get some stuff done, but I wanted to reply to these questions that had come through. And again, acknowledging Mr. Hugh Kerr, HR Podcast, Mr. Buckaroony, both of those guys, if you haven't already, yeah, I'd be grateful if you appreciated subscribing to them, supporting them, and having a look at what they do. So until the next video, take care, stay awesome, and I'll see you on the next one.